Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. How's everyone doing? Good morning. It's Friday. Okay, Friday from Dean. Good morning, John. Good morning, Heinrich. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Daniel. Good morning, Sterling. Work was not. That's just the problem is you disagree. We had a disagreement about about day trading accounts and everything else, and you just didn't want to show up. I actually spoke to Sterling yesterday. He was swamped with work. He was swamped with work and could not show up. But he's back today. He is back today. Thank you for tuning in, Sterling. Good morning, Anissa. Good morning, Tony. Here, brought to you by earnings.com. He's putting in the earnings. We missed them yesterday. I had to do some verbally. Good morning. We were expecting you early. Who were you expecting early? Grand Rising, Christoph. HCL Healthcare beat miss. CNC Center Corp miss beat. Auto Nation was a beat. 30 seconds early. Well, good morning, Royal Palms. I don't know what's going on. But what's going on? We got Friday. We got Nasdaq stalling out of recent highs. We got the dollar bouncing. Booz Allen Hamilton was a beat miss. Thank you, Sterling. All right, durable goods coming in this morning. There was a drop expected. Prior was 16.5. Now we're at 9.3. Minus negative 9.3. So big drop there. Everything dropped except X transports, which were expected to be up slightly. They were a slight beat. Market not really reacting much to that. We only had the rig counts, so the rest of the day is quiet besides what comes out of the administration. Who knows? We had the Trump tour the Fed renovation yesterday. So that's where we sit with that. That was interesting. Yeah, Intel, especially on guidance, and it had a double top, Jake. Double top in there. You had to trigger it after hours, but it's already going to hit the final target. I didn't come early. I was on time. It is important, Rick. It's very important. So, again, very quiet day. Mega caps are slightly up. Comcast. What's going on with Comcast? And Charter. Comcast and Charter both down. Intel, there you go. Down minus 8.66%. But other than that, mega caps still holding slightly firm. Your groups, let's do a quick refresh. Industrials, financials, consumer cyclical, all leading. Basic materials, gold's down big after hitting our key level and now breaking the channel. So short-term stuff, watching for a bigger pullback. Basic materials down 28 basis points. Fed watch still next week. We got 5 days, including the weekend. It's pretty much a lock for a pause. Lock for a pause. Fear and greed, still in extreme greed. Schiller PE 3880. All right. So, hey, Sterling, can you put Phillips 66 was a BP. Could you just put in Intel's from yesterday if you have a chance? CVS also dumping. What else do we have? What else? That was hilarious. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Trump and Powell. It was funny about the building that was finished 5 years ago. That could have been a skit. All right, that wraps up earnings. All right, so S&P still climbing, approaching a major harmonic area. We've stalled out already at 6,400 or 6,421. The cluster area is 6,428. If we push up, that's where I'm watching anywhere around here. I'm watching for a key top. We have daily cycles. That was a weekly chart. Daily cycles trying to top out here. We got daily cycles getting to a top. So going into the Fed meeting, we're going to have daily and weekly at a top. We had a little channel forming yesterday. That's what I had marked. A little channel. We broke out. We broke out yesterday afternoon. Just ramped up, then pulled back in the European Open session. If we start breaking above 64.12, that's a minor little bullish play. Is this? Let's see if this double works out. Let's see if the double does work out. So that's what I'm going to be watching. If we got to sustain something on a break above 64.12, but on a closing basis on a shorter term chart, 64.10.25 is what I'm looking at. 64.10.25. By the way, when I see something like this, I'm just going to point something out. You see this? See how it's stalled out here before? This is where I'll fine tune my levels. This is where I will fine tune the levels. I just won't put off that. So, again, look. So we take everything into consideration. And yeah, you don't have to do this just on a short-term chart. This is on any term chart. So you see how the first target. See how the first target is just beyond the 62.5, and if I move this, you see how it was that key level I put on, which lines up perfectly with 62.5. So guess where my stop raise at least would be going? It would not be at 64.14.50. It'd be at 64.14. All right. So that's what we're looking at there. But I'd need to close above 64.10.25 before that would trigger, unless you're doing something more aggressive. So that's what I'll be looking for the upside going in. I just wanted to clarify that. Don't just get stuck. Use all the information you have. All right, and when there's another key level right around a target, use that information. Don't just be silly. All right, if we break down, we have some pretty key support right around 6,400. If we start breaking below there, watching something closer to about 63.90 for a pullback. All right, and for a potential bounce there if we pull back there. Would I be aggressively shorting this? No. Not with this, especially going on Friday. Thank you for putting up that. That was a misbeat. But it also, thank you for putting that up. It was restructuring. Dark screens, dark trading triangle patterns ever again. They're worst and highly... No, they're not highly... Oh, dark screen, you think everything that doesn't work is manipulated. I've talked about triangle patterns in the past. I've tested out thousands of them. They are virtually 50-50. They have a 51-41 or 52-42, 51-49 or 52-48 probability depending on the exact triangle pattern and some other factors. Does that give you a big edge? And I talked about that, why I don't like them. I hope you've watched those. That's why if you don't tune in on a regular basis, you're probably missing key levels or key things, because I only talk about certain things when it comes up as a topic. But I know other people know, and could probably put it in the chat, why I don't like triangle patterns. But it's not that they're manipulated. Stop with everything that doesn't work is manipulated. There's probabilities involved. All right. Getting to cycle tops doesn't mean we have to top out today, but I would not be surprised, at least it's a Friday. We've been on a big run this week. We're in blow-off top territory. Doesn't mean it can't keep going. Going into next week, remember, cycles, again, very overstretched. The difference between 8 EMA and 21 EMA is at extremes. We talked about the versus the 20 SMA yesterday, streaks we have not seen since the dot-com era. Does it have to stop? No, it doesn't. But am I super cautious? Am I going all into the upside here? No, I mean, anything, if something like this little thing were to trade, that's a scalp trade only. That's not, hey, let's back up the truck and load up on the S&Ps. No. Do we have a major topping pattern? No. I sound like a broken record, but that's the way it is right now. Nasdaq, again, stalling out. This is interesting because we had, you had Tesla technically beat, but those were horrible earnings. It has not gone anywhere since the highs of Monday. We've tested that high area on Wednesday, Thursday, and today, and has not been able to break it against the harmonic level, the roughly the 23,430 area. So keeping an eye on that, and we do have, it's actually a mess now. This has turned into too big a mess. Don't bother with that. Something I was looking at earlier. Let's see if this works. That works. So what's interesting is you have a potential long setup in the S&P. You have a potential short setup in the Nasdaq. And look at the 4-hour rotation zone, how it's been like collapsing. So it's not even holding there. And we're right at the daily rotation zone. So, by the way, this is where, if you're looking for short stuff, I'd be more watching if we start breaking below. Let me fine-tune this level a bit. Again, can't give out trading advice, but I'd be looking at closer. If we start breaking down about below 23,335 and then take out 23,298, which is just below the 23,300 key number people will be keying off of, then I'd be looking here, but that would be scalpy short. Why? Because you could slam into the daily rotation zone. So that's a hyper aggressive short. Now, what's also interesting in the Nasdaq, the cycles have already rolled over, and we got weekly cycles pinned to the top. So next week will be real interesting in the Nasdaq. Also next week, remember, next week, here we go, stuff. We got Visa, we got Meta, we got Microsoft. I know we have Amazon next week. It's just not on this chart. We have Apple. Look at the number of Mag 7 stocks we have. Next week's going to be interesting. And you have other stuff like Visa, not a Mag 7 stock, but again, related to consumer spending. So next week through Thursday is going to be super interesting. The Dow, not much has changed on a pullback, looking at 44,800. Other than that, yesterday's high areas key. There's just not a great setup in the Dow right now. Inside bar yesterday to Wednesday. So far, inside bar again today to yesterday. So I'll be keying off yesterday's high and low. And remember, it's also Friday. Russell, there is actually now a very, very key support level around 2264. If that starts breaking, I'm going to be watching for some pullback in the Russell. If that holds, I'm not focused on the Russell today. The only thing I'm focused on potentially on the bullish side is the S&P, if that little pattern triggers. Otherwise, I'm watching for more of a choppy to possibly pullback areas. There is not a lot of great stuff on the Russell. If the Russell really broke down, it'd be about 2247. VIX, again, not much. It's just very, very low. We'll be watching this going into next week. DAX, we either have the breakdown below 24,050. Other than that, not much on the DAX. Sometimes there's just not good setups. Yields, little bounce here. So now I am watching for any pullback. This did not trigger a percent B buy. Okay, sometimes they're just not. My setups didn't trigger. So I'm now watching, again, going into a Fed meeting for any pullbacks to make another bottoming pattern, as long as we don't close below 4.33. 30-year yields trying to break out again here, but nothing, no setup there. Crude, it's been volatile. We went to the first target, the pullback. Remember, the invalidation point based off hitting that first target was a close below 65.31 or a trade below 65.11, neither which happened. Pulled back between the 50 and 62.5, and then are up to the second and the final target. The double in crude is over. So, and that looks like a corrective channel. So I'm now going to be watching for another potential pullback to retest this 64.80 level and see if we form a stronger daily bottoming pattern. I know cycles are at the bottom. They're trying to move up, but I'm going to be looking at this going into next week on any pullback. Gold. So remember, it hit the 87.5 level we talked about. Again, that was also in slice. I gave that exact target. And now we've pulled back. Yesterday, we bounced off the bottom of the channel, and today we're breaking it. So on a long-term basis, we're still fine. On a short-term basis, that's why we had targets at 34.19, 34.48, now pulling back. The channel is done for the time being. I am back in short-term patient mode. Short-term patient mode. I'm flipping around my harmonics. And I'm now going to watch today because it's been holding the 50 recently on a closing basis, but I'm keying off of 32.26. We close below 32.26, I'll start watching for the even bigger pullback. We hold that, I'll be looking to see how it reacts early next week and Sunday night. Silver, nothing's changed, still a potential double top, still just pulled back to the rotation zone. There's not a great setup right there in silver. Copper stalled out at the next harmonic. I want to see how it reacts on a pullback to about 570. But again, not a lot of great setups. Dollar, we did not pull back to 75. That was my key level. We did not have a %B buy bar. So there was nothing yet. I'm going to be watching for any dollar weakness again next week to see if we form a stronger bottoming pattern. Again, never worry about, it's not a mistrade if you didn't have a setup. Not a mistrade. We saw cycles heading down, so we could consolidate. Then I'll start looking more, but there's no setups today that I am looking at. Yen continues. Yen, we didn't get a %B buy set up yesterday and a little bounce here. I'm going to now still watching to see if it pulls back and holds support, but there haven't been a lot of great setups over the last couple of days. Spiders, stalling out the key between the two key harmonics right here. I'm just going to be watching the S&P. Spiders also looking a little toppy. Pay attention to yesterday's low. Other than that, I'd just be watching if the S&P futures trigger that little mini double. We don't even have a pausing bar here, so next, if we did break above, actually my target's just going to be if we're going to do something in the spiders, which I'm not today, but I'd be using the 633.99, 636.15 as a key little resistance area, and in front of that, I'd be looking at about 635.80 on any little minor bounce. We'll get to some other stuff in a second. The Qs do have, again, stalled out at these harmonics. The Qs do have a potential double top heading into next week against the rotation zone. Other than that, yesterday we pulled back, filled the gap, and bounced. If you do break above today's highs, 566.99. Bitcoin breaking down, not closing below the rotation zone yet. We're watching this to hold with cycles getting near the bottom for any bounce play. But if again, this could really it suck people in right here. Now gone the other way. With the Nasdaq, especially looking that it could roll next week, I'm not looking for anything on the long side just now. What else? What else do we have? Hold on. See, I won't take 50-50 with a 2-to-1 reward rate to risk ratio. That's where we'll differ, because I don't really have the probabilities in my favor either. So that's roughly a trade expectancy. I mean, it's still a positive trade expectancy, but the other reason I won't take it is on triangle patterns. And who brought up, is it forming a triangle pattern on the daily with gold? Jake? Because here's the reason I won't take it. I've talked about this in the past, is because there's too many stall points. It can still break out of a triangle and still end up in the prior support resistance. Triangle, is gold forming a triangle pattern on the daily? No, it's not really. That's a crappy triangle pattern. It's really not. When we find a good triangle pattern, we'll go back over it. For example, let's just pretend this was a triangle pattern. Why I still won't take it? Why I don't like trading triangle patterns? Let's just say, let's pretend this was a triangle. Okay, and this was the lower end of the triangle. All right? And let's just pretend we had a let's pretend we still, this is not a valid triangle. That's not what I'm saying here. But let's say we had the upper end of the triangle. Let's just pretend it was this triangle. Ignore these bars. We break down below here. What do I have? I have a key support point here. I have a key support point here. I have a key support point here. So 2-to-1 reward to risk. I have too many stopping points in a triangle that we could break down, trigger the triangle technically, and catch on too many things. Okay? That's why I don't like those patterns. That's why I do not like them, because they don't follow. A lot of times, even if they break out, they don't follow through because they catch on other horizontal support and resistance key points. Keep that in mind. Do your own research, but that's what I found. And I think I've tested over 10,000 triangle patterns. All right? They're notoriously bad and hard to trade. If they worked, I'd be covering them. That's why when they come up, I say I hate triangle patterns. Just, you can trade however you trade. And I like that you've put in 50-50 with 2-to-1 reward to risk, but my 2-to-1 I can't get because there's generally too many stopping points. It's not a clean move. All right? It's not a clean move. Good morning, PMG. Can we peek at HIMS and OKLO? If you want me to look at stocks, put them in now. HIMS, nothing's changed. Strong, we're still in rah-rah market mode. Now, I'd be careful on this. If the stuff like the Nasdaq really starts selling next week, this could take a hit. His key support with the separation of the rotation zone is back at the 52 to 53 area. Is your key support. All right? With the separating rotation zone. If it starts, would not be, at this point, would not be maintaining a long position below 50. If it closed back below there. Until that, even a pullback here, fine. Unless the Nasdaq forms a major reversal bar with momentum. Other than that, you still have your target to the upside. Still the gap fill target. Other than that, we didn't cover it yesterday, but there's a significant level right here. Sorry, right here. 61. It just happens to be 61. That would be a definite area of major resistance for me, especially if it can't get through there. Be aggressively moving up stops on any longs. OKLO. Technically, the weekly double is still in play unless it gets above 79.42. Just because it's in play does not mean it ever has to trigger. Again, rotation zone, percent B buy, follow through to the upside. Nothing's changed on this either. Just hit the key reverse harmonic, 76.48 yesterday, stopping out there and pulling back down. Your major support area is now between 68 and 70 on any pullback. Keep in mind, I mean, it's at bottom of harmonic, so I'd just be slowly raising a stop on this. You do have divergences setting up, but this could be only the first potential divergence up here again. On the longer term, You do have some divergences still up here, but there's no key topping pattern just yet. So now let's talk about the next target is between 79.40 and 80.57, the next target area. Trading with low capital is just a waste of time. Trading what with low capital? Trade, all right, and define low capital. I mean, you can open a smaller futures account and trade micro futures with lower capital. Should you do it with $100? No, I don't think anybody lets you open an account with that. Can you do it with a couple thousand? Sure. Trading full stocks or stock options with a couple $1,000 account, don't do it. Unless you're trading fractional shares, but it depends on your commissions then. So that's why I suggest if people want to learn stuff and they're willing to trade, and you can properly fund a micro account and you can manage reward to risk, that's something you should be looking at. You're welcome, Jacob. What do I think of DRI? It's actually been on my watch list. It's been on my watch list for this pullback. I'm still being very patient with DRI. And if you doubt it's on my watch list, where was it? I can't find it. I had an alert go off. Yeah, look. What's this? Right here. DRI. Huh. See? It's been on my watch list. It triggered. Am I looking for anything yet? No. This was to sit up and take notice. I have to reset my alert. This is why I wanted to see it break this 50% harmonic. We still have cycles going down. We're not yet oversold. We don't have a bottoming pattern yet. Guess where I'm watching for a bottoming pattern? Somewhere between 198.24 and 204.25. All right? It's still, P to E is a little pricey from a longer term position. If this closes below 198, not only can we close below a key support area, then I'll be targeting closer to 192 in the 50 for a potential setup, not just a level to buy at. So right now, I'm going to be watching closer to between 200 and 198 for a potential setup pattern. If we close below 198, going to be watching for a continued pullback. That does not mean we won't have bounces. Just like we got the first cross rotation zone, we had a little channel pattern. All right, broke down for that channel and the rotation zone. So this was just a bounce play only. I need a solid bottoming pattern, especially with weeklies still headed down and not yet oversold, and potentially today going to close below the weekly rotation zone. That puts me in patience. And look, if we do close below that 198, where is my next key level? Closer to that 75. And look where the 50 is. And you see where the 200 is. Now, there is this very key support base. That's why I'm looking at this area first. All right. Intel. Here you go. We're almost to the bottom of the double top. Now, would I do anything aggressive with Intel? No. All right. Could be setting up next week for a bounce buy with some percent B buys. Again, that would be for a bounce play only. Where am I looking for? I'm looking for Intel to return somewhere closer. Remember, down here, you can liquidate the company for more than the stocks trading. So they're going through more restructuring. Things aren't looking good in the short term for Intel. But again, you got to look at all their fab stuff, and this is not a technical play, although I'm watching some key technicals, especially if you close back below 20 bucks. I am being very patient. Why is Intel not on my radar much? Because, again, they killed their dividend. Remember, they had a great dividend. Why do I need to trade this anymore? Unless it gets to a very key support level. And I expanded my chart. Okay, look at this. Look at this level down here. We get especially like a weekly percent B buy bar down here. Hey, and it triggers. I'm all in for it. Remember, we set up here. Look at this. Against that key level area. Let me move it down just a bit. Okay, around 19 bucks. We set up a percent B buy bar, break above that high. That's where I'll watch on the weekly basis and then watch for momentum break on a daily. And it rocketed up. All right. This did not set up, but I've been watching back down here for either a double or maybe a percent B buy bar. Other than that, nothing for me. Was there a potential daily double top in Intel? Yes, that's why it was on my chart already. No, it was not a triple. Why was it not a triple? Because this did not spike high enough to invalidate it. This is all part of one side move, and then it went up here. Okay? Now, if it let's say with this bar yesterday, it had rotated back up, it would have been a triple. Because it would have been 1 top area, 2, and 3, because this pulled back too far. This was not a triple. It was a double. This was one side of a double. This was one side of a double. This was one part. This established another side of the double. And then this, again, it did not move low enough and high enough to invalidate this spike. So good question, Sterling. But that's why it was on the chart already. It is. All right. A, give you a pro tip. A, it's going to take you a while. B, you have to start very small, so you have to have another source of income while you're working on it. Start very, very small. And day trading is very rough. I would focus on swing trading, setups on a 4-hour or daily basis, and those kind of trades. And it's not going to be your main income source for a while. You better have another income source. Why do I like now? I would rather and say why only one, there's a couple days a week I can day trade. Fine, then wait for the setups on the 4-hour and the daily basis and take them on a shorter term time frame. If people learn to do that, they're much better off. But yes, day trading trading, I should say trading can be a main source of income. Day trading's very hard unless you really are patient and wait for the setups on the larger time frames and then take them on the smaller time frames. And people way rush in trying to, and here's the other thing with trading. Let's say you're doing it full time. The other mistake people say is I have to make X per day, like it's a paycheck. No, biggest mistake everyone can make. Why is that a huge mistake? Because it's not a salary. It's not an hourly wage. It's not like you sit in the chair 8 hours a day and you're going to make X. Some days, do I not say repeatedly, even on a larger time frame, there are no good setups right now. Do I say that? Because if you haven't heard me say that, you're actually not listening to the live stream or you're not tuning in enough. So, if there's no good setups, are you going to make money that day? Should you make money that day? No. Okay? Don't force money when money's not there. People say, I need to make, let's say you're starting out, I need to make $500 a day, which is a lot of money if you're just starting out. Let's say they say, I need to make $100 a day. You're not going to make $100 every day. The other mistake people make is They set a thing. Oh, I'm going to make $100 a day. They hit their 100. I'm out. I'm not taking any more trades. Let's say it's one of those amazing days where, you know what? You don't know what kind of day it's going to be. So you cap your, and I've seen this. I've worked at some prop firms, and I've seen this repeatedly, where traders are, all right, my goal was $1,000 today. Made it. I'm out. Next day, oh crap! I'm stuck at. I'm only making 100. I got to force another trade. Oh, now I was a loser. I'm down 50. Now I got to make another trade. Oh, now I'm down 200. Now I got to make another trade because I'm not getting my 1,000. And then since they capped themselves out at 1,000, I've seen, you know, when a day's working or setups are working, and they keep going with them. I love momentum rotation zone days because you can take 5 or 6 rotations. Stella, come on, 5 or 6 rotations, and you know if you capped yourself at that $100 or $500, it could have been a $2,000 or $3,000 day because it's just one of those days that keeps going. Or you're riding the trend. Don't get if it hasn't hit your trailing stops. Don't get out. Let it keep running. But if you say, hey, I got my $500, I'm out. Well, what if that was a $2,000 day, and then the next day was a 0 day because there are no good setups. The next day you had a couple setups, but they turned into losers. You lost a couple $100, but you're still up 2,000 from the first day. Don't force. Do not. I tell people if you're doing this for a living, don't even have weekly goals. Have monthly goals and quarterly goals. And you're not even going to hit every month goal because some months suck. Some months are fabulous. Okay? I hope that helps more than you, Santer. You got to be careful because people overtrade when the conditions aren't right. You're welcome, Anissa. I'm glad you trade micros. Acceptable levels of rants. These aren't rants today. So trading forex, you can trade small on forex. I'm going to tell you, forex is I'd stick with the major pairs. And you can trade small on forex. Forex, I would not recommend day trading forex. Focus on longer term setups with forex. That's where people get crushed. You're welcome, Dean. You're welcome, Rick. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people make fun of living in your parents' basement, but if you can do it, and if you can, whatever career, it doesn't even have to be trading or investing, but if you're working on another career and you get to live, you know, however, as being a basement or something else, and you get to manage your life and do that for a while you establish yourself, that's fantastic. Just don't make it a habit. You better have a path in mind. Many day catch low time frames to catch small moves. Yes, but the problem is, what is the problem with only catching small moves? Losers can wipe you out really quick. It is a very true adage in trading. Keep your losses small, let your winners run. How do you, if you're only ever capturing small moves, how do you let your winners run and keep your losses small? And why do people just try to grab small little things? Why do people try to grab small little things? Because they're afraid of, I might give this back to the market. But how you're going to have waves. How are you ever going to take things to a full potential if you don't sit through the waves? For example, what was this? We put this on the channel yesterday. It's not like I do this after the fact. Was this not put on the channel yesterday? I just said you don't have reward to risk up here, so I would not be getting in. You could still got in on a pullback as long as it didn't close below the invalidation point. But look, you're sitting through waves. That's why I say with the invalidation point, could you have had a different stop? Yes. But what was the invalidation point? Is it still a valid pattern trade? But if you try to say, oh, I'm out, first target, I'm out. Oh, lucky I got out. Oh, crap, I missed the second and third targets. I'm out. Well, what happens if you're always out here and then the one doesn't get to that target and stops you out? Well, you're giving back a lot of money. That's why I have targets on patterns. It's also why I talk about, and I've talked about this in the past. Okay? How would I look to possibly roll this farther than this target? Well, what would I need to close above the 62.5? Did I have it? No. If I closed above here on a larger time frame, then what could I have said? Hey, I might extend the final target to the 75 and maybe the 87.5. That's how you can look to roll something that's running into a further target. The biggest thing is grabbing profits too quick and letting losers run against you. Well, maybe it'll turn around. Maybe it'll turn around. You're going to wipe out too many winners. And people they don't let their winners run. Like this, like your larger time frames. Okay? This, even from here, the Nasdaq capitulation. I said this was, it was a capitulation, potential capitulation bottom. That was correct. All right, and it's still running. Have we closed below the daily rotation zone yet? Have we even triggered a bigger pullback pattern? No. But here, let's say you're trading the Nasdaq. Let's say this double triggers. If you're saying, "Oh, I'm gonna take off all my longs from that capitulation just because this little pullback pattern triggered," are you nuts? Did you get out here? 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 Because based off that, you would have been out. You would have been on most of these pullbacks. Then you would have been looking, "Oh, I missed the whole move." That's why you let your winners run. You keep your losses small. And at some point, this is going to turn. Okay, the Nasdaq's going to turn, and are we going to get the bigger pullback? Yes, but that's why you trail. Trail part of your position. And know where your trailing stops are. There you go. Good advice from Charles. If anyone uses NinjaTrader and overtrades, free add-on called Risk Master locks you out of your account for the day. That's good. If you hit your loss limit, and I completely agree with loss limits. You hit your loss limit. I don't agree with profit objectives. I don't want to be locked out. Let's say I have a loss limit of 500 a day. You lock me out of my account? Great. Gets me away from doing clicky-clickies. Don't clicky-clicky when you're having losses. You have something that says, hey, I hit a $500 a day profit and it locks me out of account. I think that's stupid. Because when things are going for you, again, things happen in streaks. And when it's favorable conditions for trading, don't lock yourself out. Now, I have a drawdown limit. Like, I will only go back and give back a certain percentage of gains. Okay? But I'm not locked out of I will not personally lock myself out of any account on a strong winning day, a strong winning week. It's like, let's say you have a great Monday. Are you not going to trade the rest of the week because you had a great Monday? What if it's a great week? What if it's a great month? And when it's a crappy day, a crappy week, you better lock yourself out of those accounts. Take your losses because you're going to have those too. Well, you have to detach from, if you're tied to the money, then yes, you will. It will take a toll on you. And if you can't trade money you're willing to lose, you shouldn't be trading. So if you're starting out, and let's say you're open a micro account, that money you better say, hey, it's like that money. Instead of taking a vacation, I'm going to take this money and put it in a trading account. You would have spent the money on a vacation. Okay? I know a lot of people have done stuff like I know people who said, hey, I'm not going out for my Starbucks anymore. I'm going to save up my money. I'm going to make my coffee at home. I'm going to save up all my money. I'm not going to eat out. I'm not going to get my coffees out. And I'm going to save all that money. I'm just going to make bologna sandwiches at home and coffee at home. And I'm going to do that, save my money, and put it in a trading account. Then be willing to risk that money. You went through, you know what? You made some sacrifices. Now be willing to risk the money. If you're attached to the money, you're never going to trade. Clicky clicky? Yeah, seriously, Rick. Don't over clicky clicky. You're listening to somebody who wears a tie-dye every day, Rick. Don't over clicky clicky. Don't over thinky thinky. By the way, keep an eye on these. These might never trigger, but why do I watch major double patterns? Look, we got a major double pattern in Broadcom and NVIDIA. Why do I watch them? Because we also have nearly equal tops, very different momentum. If these trigger, we could be getting the bigger pullback in the Nasdaq. So I'm keeping a very close eye on those. Well, you're welcome, Rick. Again, I hope people have learned something here. That is my whole goal. That is the whole goal. Why get up and do this even when I don't feel like it? I just hope people have learned something. And if you have, help other people. That's what I ask. By the way, I'm trying to get streaming going on Rumble, and I'm going to ask for a favor. If people can at least, it's going to be another platform. There's going to be, if once we get that going, if you can jump over there for a few days and watch some videos, and at least subscribe to the channel over there. So if you don't have a Rumble account, I don't care if you want to use Rumble or not. I'm trying to get other people involved with this information. I know Rumble's a little more political, but this is not about politics at all. It's about getting this information out for multiple channels. So I'm going to ask if you could, that's another way to support this channel. We set up a Rumble account, so once the live stream starts working over there, you can subscribe to the channel over there and hopefully get more people involved, if that's possible. You're welcome, Heinrich. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate people who are here all the time. I really appreciate people spending their time with me. Thank you, Charles. And spending your time with me. And I just hope you're not tuning in for the sake of just, I don't know, putting me on the background. I hope you're really learning, and I appreciate the people who ask questions and contribute. Sterling putting in the earnings and asking, hey, is that a double? And Sterling putting in things. I spotted a double here. I spotted a double here. I spotted a head and shoulders here. You know what? Put it in for the group. That's what's important. We're all here for each other. All right. Thank you, Christoph. Yeah, I was finally talking to Rumble yesterday, so we'll get it going. I was supposed to start today with the sample, and it wouldn't launch for a reason. I got to figure out why. Again, it'll keep going on YouTube. It'll keep going on X. They're not going away. I'm just trying to broaden out into a bigger audience should there be issues with one platform. With that, everyone have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around. Hope you learned something, and I'll talk to everyone later. Bye for now.